Hey, we in.
We're all in. That, I say this every time, but that little tune makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy.
Yeah, Dave Rashoni, thank you very much.
Good old Dave Rashoni. Well, we have guests tonight.
Oh my gosh.
This is so exciting. With us at the teacher pep rally from iTech, and we've had them here before.
Old friends.
Usually in October. We'll talk about why that is. But I'm going to let each of you introduce yourselves, your name, your role, kind of what you do over there at iTech. And so, Evelyn, I'm going to let you go first.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having us. I am Evelyn McCulloch, the Director of Educational Technology at iTech, based out of Orlando, Florida.
We love Orlando.
Yeah.
And Evelyn is my boss. I'm lucky enough to work for her. And I'm the Educational Design and Strategy Lead at iTech.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to have you here. As I mentioned, you've been here before, and we usually have you come in October. So before we kind of talk about why we have you always come in October, why don't you just tell us some updates? What's going on in your worlds and with iTech? How's it going?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. We are having a ball serving in our schools, and our team has grown a lot since we saw you last October. So at that time, it was Mike and I on our ed tech team. And since then, in January, we hired another educational designer named Brian Cox, and he's also based out of the East Coast of Florida. He is awesome. And then we hired Trish Everett down in South Florida to support our presence and service of schools there. So we're super excited. Now there's 4 of us on the ed tech team, and then about 50 or so that work for iTech in total.
Wonderful.
So that has been exciting. We love our team so much. So that's a little update from us. And Mike, do you want to give a little update from just some of the things we've been working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is AI. That's got to be probably like the biggest space that we've been doing a lot in that realm of just wrapping our heads around, understanding, getting certifications, holding workshops. And that's everything for like parents, how do they respond? How do schools respond? Helping them update their acceptable use policies, workshops for teachers of how to utilize it, how students can utilize it. Just that's been obviously one of the biggest topics. So yeah, that's probably the most exciting thing that we've been up to.
Wow. I was going to say, Fred and I are like itching at this point now. Go ahead, Fred. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so you said it. So you're saying AI, and that's the big buzzword this year. And,
right.
And everybody's, I've talked about it in public forums, and now we're weaving it into the classrooms in certain degrees. Why don't you just share your thoughts and the direction maybe the company's going with AI and your perception of AI going forward with education?
Yeah. So, I guess it was really shortly after about this time last year, like November-ish when ChatGPT 3.5 dropped and it was really getting big. And I kind of had a conversation with Evelyn that was, hey, as a tech company that works in the educational space, what's our response to this? And the response was basically like, well, we don't have one yet, so why don't you go figure that out? Which was awesome. They just kind of like opened, like go, figure it out. So then that led me to, I think I've got 3 or 4 certifications in everything from prompting AI to building AI to just, kind of like as many realms as I can get. So I think, my belief on it, my stance is just hearing, the really big brains talk about how this is potentially bigger than the Industrial Revolution. So like any of us that have taught US history or world history, like that's a pretty bold statement, but even to put it in that realm is huge. But I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's gonna like take everybody's job, but I think it's gonna completely change what the job market looks like. I think it's gonna replace tasks, and it's gonna replace what work looks like for people. And I think as educators, then it's our responsibility to make sure that our students are ready for that world. I think if we just ignore it, it's gonna be, it's gonna be detrimental to them. I think it's exciting. I mean, I think some of the things that are out there are really cool, but I think we need to make sure we utilize it in the right way. I personally, I think the best way to see it is that hopefully it's going to remove a lot of our administrative tasks and do those things for us and make it easier so that we can spend more time making art and poetry and music and, doing the things that human beings really want to do.
I like that because that takes out the tedium aspect, right? We talk a lot about that, and that's technology's curve in general, right? It's
Right.
slowly moving us away. So what when you said about exciting stuff, we've seen a lot of stuff where we see the generative text type stuff. When you said you're excited, what do you both see that was, or what have you seen really excited you? What do you see it doing that's transformative or fun or exciting? What was the thing that really caught your attention with all this stuff? I mean, aside from, generating an answer, in a weird conversation with AI, but what did you see that really caught your attention?
Sure.
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Evelyn, you got any?
You go first.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Like I said, she let me off the chain for this. So this is my jam is AI. So I mean, I think tools like EduAid, I don't know if you're familiar with EduAid at all. I think like when I get into a tool like that, that's, doing everything from creating 504s to making lesson plans to making rubrics, to me, that stuff is exciting. Whenever I'm working with teachers, it's like, I don't care how long you've been teaching rubrics. If you're making a good rubric, it takes a long time. And I love to build the creative side of like PBL projects, for instance, but no matter how many times I've done that, the rubric side of that takes forever, right? Like it's going to take a long time to make a thoughtful rubric, and to be able to put the parameters of my project in to something like EduAid and have it make a rubric for me in less than 10 seconds. And then I go and tweak it and, add what I need to, but that's such a lifesaver. And I think to me, real education, we talk about this all the time, right? Is we think back and it's like, it's not the math lesson that I learned. It's the math teacher, right? It's the people that care about you. And it's the people that made sure that you were safe and healthy and protected, and, taught you how to be a man or a woman, or, taught you how to be a good person in society, and those things. And I feel like this will allow teachers to have more of that time back. Cause I know, like when I was in the classroom, it felt like a lot of that time was starting to get infringed on. That it was really, really, really hard. It's like, I can't do all these things at the same time. And I know in my heart of hearts that the most important part is building relationships and, making sure that my kids' social emotional needs are met, and that that they're okay, and that they feel confident going into the world. And I feel like AI is kind of can be this light that kind of gives us a time back to go, now these administrative things that I know need to get done are important, but they're just tedious, are done. And I can spend more time just like working in groups with my students and making sure that their needs are met.
Man, you are really speaking my language right now. No pun or intended there, but a couple of things I want to make sure I highlight for everyone listening. Because the first thing is, I think that if we think of AI as a collaborator, right, whether it's with our students, with ourselves, that's just kind of an easier thing for people, I think, to digest than some of the scary stories or what ifs that are kind of floating out there. I like a couple of things you said. My first thing is, so what kind of certifications did you get? And are they ones that you would encourage any educators that are interested in this in pursuing or looking into? And if so, can you just give us a couple of like platforms or places they can check that out?
Sure. I know like one of the really good ones, I believe it was free too, is University of Helsinki had just like kind of a like an intro to AI course, and they also have a building AI course. The cool thing about that is, even if you don't have coding knowledge, the building AI has a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So if you're proficient in Python and you know how to do all kinds of stuff, you can take the advanced one and like really get into the nuts and bolts of it. But you can also have like no coding experience and do the beginner one and get into that. And it'll help you like build AI systems, so you get like a better, more intimate look into what that looks like. So those are both cool. We did one with ISTE, so looking at the ISTE standards. So that was really cool because it was specifically to do with with AI in the classroom and using those specific standards and what that can look like, and how to pitch it to your students and use it in class. Trying to think of some of the other ones. I mean, I did a couple like Udemy ones as well, just like kind of the quick Udemy
prompt
course.
engineering type.
Yep. Yeah. Like that's exactly what I did, was a prompt engineering one. So yeah, those are the ones that off the top of my head that I can think of that were.
Yeah, that's great. I think those are great resources. And just, I think, we find that there's two sides. There's people that are really scared and nervous about all this and almost like they're frozen. And then there's the other side that's like super excited, willing to kind of dive in, not too scared about, what might happen if they play around with a little bit. And so I think just for whatever side you're on, I think it's always great to continue to be lifelong learners and get out there and educate yourself and give yourself those supports and resources. It's also a great resume builder, right? The other thing is, Mike, you mentioned be open. And I liked that phrase when it comes to AI, be open. So when it comes to the policy end, I'm curious from you two, because, a lot of my job now is writing educational policies. And so I'm curious what you've seen, because you guys have the advantage of having partners with schools all over. So I imagine, or my assumption is, some schools or districts have a policy on AI that's completely different maybe from another one of yours. So do you mind just giving us kind of like a broad idea of the different policies that or procedures that you're seeing at the schools?
Sure, absolutely. Our school started really writing policy probably in the spring. Like many, some blocked it at first until they, got to a place where they felt comfortable to write policy. But we did have the awesome blessing of kind of entering into that process of writing it with them. And so a lot of them have handbooks and acceptable use policies. So we looked at those two specifically. And even we had some fun using AI tools to write some of the policy as well, like as a starter, and then build it from there, which was really fun. And then a lot of them really deployed those policies really in the pre-planning of this past school year to start in August. And then also it's been exciting. A lot of our schools have held parent workshops. So inviting the parents out and sharing, these are our policies for teachers, for students, for our school community. And some of them have done some really neat things too. We were down in Miami and heard about a school that used like a traffic light system. So within a classroom, if a project could have AI, it was green lighted on the board. If AI was to be used, but just properly cited and sourced, yellow. And then red was, hey, this is a project or lesson where AI won't be used. So we've just seen some really cool policies, and then even some classroom management things that have been kind of exciting on the ground level too.
Those are awesome examples.
I'm really happy. First of all, there's folks like yourselves who are actually involved in those conversations, because you're out there exploring it, you're engaged in it, because it's overwhelming too as a teacher when you're trying to figure out what the right thing is. So I guess more of a nerdier question for both of you would be like, when you say AI or you say AI in the classroom, are you talking straight up ChatGPT? Are you talking Bard through Google? Are you talking about Edge's use of Bing Chat, or all the above? Or are you seeing anybody really staying in one lane? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Brian's project actually. So our partner Brian that is new as of January, that Evelyn was talking about, started at one of our schools. Was doing like kind of a long-term physics gig at a school, and he dove like completely in and had the kids doing actually I think that was for chemistry, right? That was for chemistry. They were looking at like living. They had a project of like, okay, you're going to live on another planet, so you have to do some research on this planet, you have to figure it out, but then part of that was writing a captain's log. And he had me come in, and we worked on prompting to get it to write them a captain's log. And what that would look like. So then they were learning how to prompt too, because it was, well, it's not giving me what I want, or it's giving me too much fluff or too much of this. And it's like, well, then what chemistry do you need it in there? Like, what format do you want it to be in? Like, do you want a log that's a daily log for 30 days, or do you want it like weekly, or how do you want that? So it really got them into thinking of writing, but in a different way of like, how do I give directives to something so that I get like a really good response? And then we went on Midjourney, and he had them in Midjourney creating depictions of their planets, creating depictions of their habitats. So it's like, okay, like create this habitat, but like go in and, again, prompt it and figure out, how to get the best thing. Is that what was in your head? If not, well, then how do you go back in and tweak it? So I mean, that's like one really good example, I think. And, we've got a lot of classrooms using the Canvas tools. Canvas has a lot of really cool tools in it for, creation of presentations and PowerPoints and everything. or Canva.
Or
rather.
Canva. Yeah, I was gonna say
Canva.
Canvas for a second.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Canvas.
look, the LMS is that. Oh, that's
So many, yeah. Can't
I've been
Canva,
playing
sorry.
with that a lot
Um,
lately. Yeah.
And we have a
that's cool.
website too that Brian and a good friend of ours, Andrew Hutchinson, designed. And so I have our iTech website kind of here in my frame. But if you go there and go to our educational technology dropdown, there's a link to our AI for Schools website. And the team has just done an amazing job laying out a lot of really great vetted resources. And then we're actually looking for teachers who are doing AI projects they would like to showcase on the website. So huge shout out to Brian and Hutch for designing it. And then we just would love to feature teachers on it too.
That's great. And that's i-techsupport.com.
Yes.
Guys, let's say school district gives you a call, principal gives you a call. They're really skittish. They're nervous. They're like, oh, well, I'm seeing this. I'm hearing about it. Kids are talking about blah, blah. I'd like to know, what's that first conversation with them like? What are the first couple sentences you say? What do you say to them when you have a skittish school district or a principal, administrator, somebody saying, hey, I have no idea about this, but I'm hearing about it in the news. People are talking about it. Teachers are pushing. I know there's kids are doing it. It's out there. Educate me and help me feel a little bit more comfortable. What would you say to them?
Evelyn, you want to take that, or
Did I lose anybody?
I was just waiting out.
Yeah. I'll start and then I'll tag you it because you have some amazing responses on this. I think that because we know it's not going away, that it's either we embrace it now and come up with a plan, or it might be too late. Where it's in your school, but being used in a way that might not be great for learning, or in a way that affects academic integrity, or kind of the negatives, or the ethical things that we didn't have a chance to grapple with when we had the opportunity. So because it is here, it's not going anywhere, really sitting down and taking it a hard look at it, bringing together your stakeholders. So that one principal hopefully has an amazing admin team to consult with, bringing in a great group of teachers, parents, student leaders, and really diving in deep. And then that way, like plans, policies, ethical concerns, how it's going to roll out in professional development, you can kind of have control over what that looks like by just really diving in deep with a really conscientious plan, and then get people excited about it and really present what it can do for teaching and learning in the whole school community, right down to the secretaries and the operations. How will it impact what they do? So yeah, I would say jump in full force and bring a great team around you to really come up with plans, procedures, and a rollout.
Great.
Mike, tag you're it.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I got like three quick things that I've always pop into my head when I'm talking to admin in schools about this kind of stuff is one, I use cell phones. So I talk about cell phones and I say, I think like 25 years ago, is when smartphones, cell phones like really hit the scene. Right. And I feel like education as a whole just said, these things don't matter in our space for all intents and purposes. Yeah. They're not real in these four walls. We're ignoring them. They have no place. They're not part of the real world. Ignore them. And I think that was a huge misstep, just my personal opinion, in the sense that you look at a lot of young people today, they have very unhealthy relationships with these, right? They don't know how to use them appropriately. They're addicted to them, all that other stuff. And I think part of that is education didn't teach them how to have a healthy relationship with it. And so part of my conversation is we're at the cusp of the same thing with AI. So let's make sure that kids learn how to have a healthy relationship with it. Let's make sure that they know how to use it, how to utilize it, how to beat it, all of those things. So even if you don't like it, go, okay, well, let's put it on the radar so that we know how to beat it then. And I think that leads into how you teach your kids. And part of it is cheating's always going to exist. It always has existed. So we need to teach them easy now, hard later, right? Or hard now, easy later. So if you're yes, you can use it to cheat, but you need to get that into their heads that it's eventually the bill's going to come due, right? You're going to, whether it's in my presentation and you get up and I ask you, I go, wow, that's really interesting that you presented that. Can you tell me about that? And you're going to go, right. Or when you get the job interview or whatever it is, like at some point the bill is going to come due and you're not going to know and you're not going to understand the information. So getting them to understand that. And then I think the other one is trying to get in front of teachers and go, let's make teachers excited before we start talking about policy and everything else. It's like, if I can give teachers a couple tools, like some of the things in EduAid, for instance, right, that are going to give you hours in your week back, I think it's a lot easier of a place than for people to be excited and go, man, I just got like 5 hours a week back in my schedule that I can spend with my family or whatever. And now say, okay, now let's start talking about like the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? They're much more receptive at that point.
That's great. So I'll jump in with that 1 second. I like what you said about getting back to the engagement, because I don't think any of us went into teaching to spend our weekends grading. Like grading is an important part of our job, and it's feedback and so on. But I think what a lot of us really were attracted to teaching is that being in the classroom, working, engaging physically, like talking with students, and that's what this starts to do. And going from that fear mindset doesn't get us anywhere anyway, like being afraid of what it's going to do to take away jobs. And it can be incredibly liberating. Once you start to see what it could do, it's amazing. And it allows you now to quickly, just as an example from what I was doing, and Aaron and Pete know this, I was taking some old assignments and I needed to update them or, dust them off, that's what I called it. And I would feed that into the AI, and it would come back with a really neat set of twists and turns to it. I'm like, wow, I never thought about doing it that way. And it's made, I've been doing this a long time. It's made going back into the classroom exciting again. Because you're not doing the same, because you kind of get in that rhythm or that routine, and it kind of wears down. So I think, if teachers can experience it that way, that would be a big win, as opposed to, oh, this is going to take my job away. I think you're right. I think, but if we encumber it with policy, well, Pete and Aaron could probably talk more about that than I can, but it's good. I think you're right. I think you're hitting right in the head.
Yeah, it's that mindset, I think, Fred, that you're talking about. And Mike, when you pulled up the cell phone, it reminded me, like a week ago, I saw, I don't know if it was a meme or something on social media, and it basically said, it had a person, an adult with a cell phone in their hand, and they said, yeah, my teacher said, you're not going to have a calculator. My math teacher said, you're not going to always have a calculator at the ready. Boy, were they wrong. And I thought, you know what I mean? That's where we are now too. Yeah. So let's rethink, like Fred was saying, and you were saying, Mike, of the mindset of, let's take the math teacher example. Is it that you want them to, just be able to calculate and get the right answer? Or do you want them to be able to talk about the way that they got there and how there might be different ways you can get there, and, where that theory came from or that idea came from, and how did it evolve? Like, to me, it's those connections and it's those relationships and the critical thinking. And this it ties in nicely to my hint of the month, is that it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's why we always, love to have people like you on to come and talk and share about that. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think we're kind of in that realm now, whether it's AI or just, owning a device, whether you're a staff or a student. So what are some things that you tend to try to instill, because it's not just for the month, I would imagine, for your job, but all year long, in your students, in your schools, about just, cybersecurity awareness, little tips and tricks?
Yeah, awesome. One of the things that's been really exciting is a lot of ed tech tools now are doing mandated MFA. And this has been really exciting because tools like student information systems and LMSs, they are really across the board, like requiring that rather than just suggesting it. And so we're helping our all of our schools really get there, so that their two most powerful systems with the most data are really secure with MFA, which is really exciting. Because one of the things we love to tell our teachers in schools too is that in those two systems, the data is stored commonly. So this idea that my data is in there, but also all of yours. And so if I make a mistake and I'm hacked, I'm opening up my data, but also all of my colleagues, all of my students. And so this idea that it's like a community effort to be secure. And so that's one of the things we love to empower our schools with. And it's been exciting with the ed tech tools are really kind of responding with that to join us in that partnership. So that's been super exciting. And we've been writing about that in our assessments that we do for schools too, like just really helping them take care of all these things that help them focus on teaching and learning and kind of keep all of those systems secure. So been really excited about seeing that happen.
That's awesome. I love that. And I'm sitting here thinking it's one of those things that it's not really fun to always keep up on, but the moment that you don't and something bad happens, then you wish that you did, right? It's kind of like owning a house or anything like that. Oh, I probably should get rid of that tree because if a storm comes, I feel like it's getting a little old. It might, and you keep putting it off instead of taking care of it and doing the maintenance. And then hopefully, it doesn't fall down and cause even more damage. So yeah, I think that's awesome that you all support your schools, to make sure that they are, continuing to maintain cybersecurity and keeping up with that good cyber hygiene. But I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure sometimes it's just it's not exciting or fun, but it's just something that you got to do.
There was an interesting report that was recently released that talked about, where there's still issues and so on. And something that caught my attention was a generational chart showing where people's concerns really laid. And it was our generation that's on here that's still concerned about passwords. However, the generation Z, they're, as you would expect, they're a little laissez-faire, like whatever, they have more online accounts than ever before, but they're not as concerned. Do you see that at all starting to show its face? And then is that still just another educational opportunity, or is that something of a broader cultural issue that we have to contend with, that they don't feel like they have anything to lose? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think passwords in general are kind of because of MFA. That's the good thing, is that in the end, passwords are becoming less important because MFA is helping, even if you're a person with a weak password or uses the same one for everything, that MFA will always save you. So that's good. But you are right. And that's why there's a number of tools out there like Passportal and others that are like password locker systems that we recommend to a lot of our schools to utilize, especially if you're like in an administrative position and you have admin credentials for a lot of your major systems. We definitely recommend that. And then also a lot of our schools are on tools like Clever and ClassLink. And that way those tools right down to the student level are storing all those passwords in a really safe place for them. So gone are the days where all the passwords would be like on the front of the planner or like tucked in. It would be like all 12 of the logins.
Key of the Rolodex for password.
Yeah.
So
it's
we see
written on your hand.
our schools and teachers, they're making some great decisions with tools like that are, keeping it all safe for the students, or even logging into a lot of things with badges. And a lot of our schools, like in the early childhood, they're getting in with one QR code, and then it's all safe in there for the little ones to stay protected with all of their cyber hygiene things too. So, but I think you're right about a lot of the generational things, Fred. And that's why more than ever, it's really good that we focus on that and really honor that as professional development offerings and just continue to make it part of our conversations and part of our schools, because that data is so important. And it can stop the mission of teaching and learning if a school, and we've had schools even here in Florida, entire districts, even in recent months, that have had really, really tragic cases of cyber attacks that have put the whole school district like out. And so our job is to stop that before it can happen, so that they can stick to all the awesome things with teaching and learning. So that's why this month is awesome to focus on cyber.
Absolutely. Yeah, because Fred, you're in higher education, the kindergartners in my school district, I mean, they're not on the devices all the time, but they get on little laptops. And so, I just think about 10 years, even just 10 years from now, if we're starting that young of an age to teach about cybersecurity, digital citizenship, how much of a positive shift we could make, I think, in society, with just thinking about what we're putting out there, what's we're not seeing behind the screens that's hidden in there, that data that's being collected that could be shared. I think it really could be big and changing. And what I love about iTech and a lot of things that you both are saying, you really listen to your community is what I hear. And that's what I've always loved about talking with you all, because it's, you have suggestions, you have expertise, but you're also trying to make sure that you're listening to the community, you're listening to the school. What are their needs? How quickly can you move along with what needs to be done, and how much is there needs to be hand-holding, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, Fred, we got a question from, I think, in our chat, from, I think, a middle schooler who was just working on his science work.
Oh, science work tonight.
Awesome.
And when you help those schools make the guidelines for AI, how do you make sure that kids don't take advantage of that, like using that to cheat on my lab report?
Dun, dun, dun.
This is real-time question from a student.
I wonder who did that in my house.
Yeah, I'll jump on that one. I hate to say it, but a lot of times my pushback on that when I get that from schools and stuff is that you're not going to stop cheating.
Right.
I said in 20 BC, there was probably a guy that gave somebody, a couple shiny rocks to like chisel out an essay for him on a stone. It's been happening forever, right? Like, you're not going to stop it. And even the idea that it's like, you're not going to have it in your classroom. Like, we don't have AI at our school. Well, what about when your kids, go home? You can't block it on their home computers. And, and I think the other thing is, if you're paying attention to just today, I think the Meta Ray-Ban glasses dropped.
Yes.
So those are, you can say, hey, Meta, and then ask a question, and it's like on your glasses. And it's just like pumping information. And it's just telling you, what's going on. So you can search the web, you can do stuff. And if you think about like using your phone as a hotspot, or Starlink gets up and you're on an unsecured network. I've been telling teachers this. I'm like, you're less than a year now. I mean, really, you're today away from a kid being able to sit in your class on an unsecured network with smart glasses on, asking Meta to give them the answers to stuff. So we're living in the future, man. It's Iron Man. You've got Jarvis in your glasses telling you, how to get things done. So you're not gonna stop it. I think there's two parts to that. One, like I said earlier, like easy now, hard later, or hard now, easy later. That use it as a tool, use it as a study bot, use it as a you've got free access to a tutor, right? Like, use it to challenge your ideas, use it but like, don't use it to cheat. And I think from the teacher perspective, if you are teaching, like, my favorite method is I came from a PBL background. So if you're doing PBL where kids have to like build, create, do different iterations of stuff, get feedback and present and perform, all of those things asks them to take knowledge and put it together and then do something with it. And it becomes obvious very quickly whether they know that material or not when they're performing or building. Right. So I think if you move to that kind of a model of education, they might still cheat on the nuts and bolts, but it becomes painfully aware whether they know what they're talking about or not.
Well, and that raises a question I had, and I'm glad you're here, both of you, to kind of sort through this. So when we look at it from a higher ed perspective, we're understanding that it's here. Okay. The question that we're struggling with, I think, a little bit, maybe across the board, is when we use it and it kicks back information, we draw upon our expertise and our knowledge to say, okay, that's not really accurate, or that's deprecated, or it's not going to work. But the question then becomes, with that tool alongside of a young learner, how do we get them to that point where they will have that same expertise to discern what is of value and what's not? It almost kind of takes me back to the conversations we used to have about citing online resources. Like, you have to say you got it from this source, and you'd go through the APA MLA world of that citation thing. But what do you think? Because we could see a lot of stuff that we teach in higher ed being cut out, because now we could start them up higher, farther, and faster because they have a lift mechanism through the AI. But to make sure that they're at that level, how do we get them to that level without using the AI?
That's a great question. I mean, that's been, I mean, honestly though, that's been the problem with the internet since its inception, right? Is that anybody can put anything anywhere. So how do you know what's real? I mean, think about like the proliferation of fake news and all the other stuff of, it's just, it becomes so hard when everything's at your fingertips. It becomes so hard to discern good information. But it just goes back even harder to that, you have to vet what you're finding. Ask if you're on a bot, a lot of them will give you sources. So ask it to give you sources, and then don't take them at face value. Like go research them. I mean, even now, I still have students that will send me, former students that are in their 20s that will send me stuff. And is this true? Is this real? About like a world event or something. And I'm like, well, one, I'll help you walk through this, but two, like you're an adult, like research it, just like Google it, and then like find a couple of different results from a few different, find some from this side, find some from this side, and and try to get it down to the middle and figure out what it is. But I think just teaching that skill, but it's hard. It's hard, and it's even harder with AI than when it's right at your fingertips and I can just get it and then move on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that you incorporate in your lessons, right? As an English language arts teacher, whether it's I'm sharing modeled examples of a paragraph or of an essay that past students have written for them to kind of get an idea of where I'm trying to get them, or going back to my idea of thinking of AI as a collaborator, I think it's okay, Fred, to incorporate them, putting it in there, letting them determine, is this a good response? Like if I look at a rubric, or if I know what Ms. King expects from samples, from conversations, from what we've been working on, is this really the caliber that she's looking for? It's probably not. So now they don't realize the work that they have to put into really, uplifting what this paragraph is, cleaning it up. And they're almost doing my job to a certain extent, right? What I do when I'm reading their stuff of like, how could this be better? Well, this sentence is passive. Let's fix that so it's more straightforward for the reader. You don't really have a very good support here. Put in two supports that would, strengthen your argument. So to me, I get excited about that kind of stuff because that's the type of work I want to be doing with students. I could care less that they started out by collaborating either with AI or a partner. Like it doesn't matter to me. It's the end game.
Right.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, as much as I'm loving having this conversation, we've kind of, Evelyn and Mike, started playing some games because we're just like, this year we're like, what is it, Pete? It's more teachers, more pep, more rally.
More rally.
We're just trying to have some fun here. So would you all be game to play like a quick lightning round with us? It's just going to be like random questions for us to answer. Yeah.
We're super competitive, so yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Is there a prize?
You know what? We could send a prize.
There we go.
Let's go.
All right, great.
Well, everyone put our glasses on. I'm in trouble.
She's serious. I am so excited.
I love it.
Yay.
You're all setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment. It's not like that.
Oh, this is serious, Pete. This is serious.
I know. Now I feel bad.
All right, so Fred's going to pull it up. We're going to do a little lightning round, like real quick questions for us to answer. I think, since there's 5 of us here on the gym floor, let's just, the minute you get the question, if you got the answer, put your hand up real quick and I'll call on you and you give your quick lightning round answer. Quick, Fred, quick lightning round.
Wait, we mean quick with the slides or quick with my answers?
Yes. Answers.
Okay.
All right, first question.
Ready?
Ready.
Click.
What are your must-have smartphone apps?
Ooh.
Oh, Evelyn, nice.
Notability.
Oh, good answer.
Notability.
I like that. Anyone else have a must-have smartphone app?
My calendar.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a calendar on my phone.
That's interesting. Do you put most of your stuff in your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
am still the old hard copy calendar. I'll put like friendly reminders, but if I don't have my hard copy calendar in front of me, forget about it. All right. Okay, let's do another one.
Here we go.
If you could grow up in any decade, which would you choose? This is a hard one. Yeah, Fred?
The 40s.
Okay, and why?
Post World War II, but a lot of great big band music, and it was the beginning of a next evolution of the country, of growth. Yeah, once we got on our feet and got everybody moving, it just seemed like it was from our perspective, looking back, kinder time, gentler time, slower time. I think that's kind of cool. Even though I love tech and I love the space and all that, but I like the notion of that world too.
And I got to tell you, Pete's kiddo just said 60s. That's my answer. There's just something about that era. I again, music, Fred's like a great reference. Maybe being a woman wouldn't be so great at that time, but I'm just visiting, I think, so it'll be all right.
I was thinking early 1900s, which I know is bad because I taught U.S. history, so I think a lot of people would be like, "Are you sure you taught that?" But it just seemed like, I don't know, it's just an interesting time to be alive, of like discovery and things going on, and you know, a lot of pain and a lot of bad stuff, but a lot of kind of cool things coming about too.
And quick growth, right? Like talking about a learning curve. Yeah. Nice. All right. Next one, Fred.
There we go.
If you could take your students on a field trip anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh,
go ahead, Evelyn.
Well, before moving to Orlando, I taught in Beijing, China.
Oh my gosh.
And one of the neatest things about being there was taking students to hutongs, where true families made their life. And there's not a lot of hutongs left in Beijing, but they really allowed these expat students who had access to lots of resources really see how authentic living took place by those still in hutongs in Beijing. So cool.
That's a very cool answer. And it reminds me of our friend Brantley Turner we had come on with the international school. She works at a school that was the very first international baccalaureate school, and it was up in New York. And they have schools all over the world. And China was one of the ones that she opened. And now she's actually in Vietnam, just opened up a school there.
That's awesome.
Cool answer. Pete, I think I might be related to you all because your kid just put England in there.
You know,
that is my answer, because I would want to take them to the Shakespearean Globe Theater.
Globe. Yes. Same.
Cool.
Honestly,
you're with me, Mike. All right, we'll go together.
I am. Well, I mean, I'm for a lot of reasons. I mean, I'm also really big into like early punk rock. So you've got a lot of like the early, UK punk scene that was going on there, and just all of that history and culture coming out of there, and music at that time. And then I used to do a lot of like lifting sports and stuff as well. So like you head right up to Scotland, and you've got all the Guinea Stones and the strongman started there, and the Highland Games, and just all of it. There's just so much cool history there.
I'm on board with that.
All right, we need to do a GoFundMe so we can all go do it.
Right.
Let's go.
Do a world tour.
All right,
ready?
Fred, let's do another one. What is your favorite food in the cafeteria? Now, this kind of comes from the last game we played. Mike, go ahead. What's your answer?
Oh, the square pizza, man.
Yeah.
There you go. That's it.
That's it.
Bing, bing, bing.
There's nothing better. That's it.
Square pizza.
Yep.
Game over.
We had Frito chili in elementary school. Did you all have that? It was a bowl of Fritos with chili and cheese on it.
Oh.
I ate that for dinner a couple times when I was a kid.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Never had it in school. That's awesome.
It
sounds good. Chocolate milk cartons. Like, used to drink so much milk because of that.
Yes. When that milk cart came, everyone was very, very excited.
Yeah.
Especially if it was frozen.
I was just gonna say, the kids love it when it's frozen.
Yeah, when it's frozen.
What do you mean?
Help us open that. Can you help us open
it was frozen like ice, like frozen.
Yeah, like icy. So they take
it like slushy. You can shake it up and it'd be all like slushy chocolate.
Wendy's out of business. There you go.
Right.
Well,
I mean, you had your choices, right? Vanilla, or was it white milk or chocolate milk? That's
white or chocolate.
White or chocolate. Yeah. Holy cow! That used to be a big thing, right? And then you have if you got to be I always like to be in the lucky one who got picked to go get it. That was
that was a big deal too.
Go out to them, and they would disperse it in your little milk crate, go carry it back to your class. Yeah, that was it.
All right, let's do another one. This is fun. What is the worst thing about being a teacher or an educator?
Oh,
it's tough.
Oh, just
Mike.
Yeah. I mean the student relationships, and watching the light come on. I think like, from teaching, coaching, just all the different aspects that I've worked with students is watching the light come on for another human being in something is magical. Again, ELA teacher, so Dumbledore, wizards, the older wizards stepping into that role of just like being able to help the main character like see the light and see something come on and just watch that like that moment happen is there's something addictive. I mean, there's something really addictive and magical about watching that happen.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
That's
Totally
so
agree.
cool.
The worst thing,
The schedule, probably.
I think, I don't know. I think like certain assignments, I just dread grading. There's certain formatted assignments that I'm like, this is a grind. This is a real grind. But I don't want to make it sound like I don't like doing my job. But that goes back to my other point before. I didn't become a teacher to sit and stare at handwriting I couldn't read for a half hour. If it was on paper that way. Yeah.
Are you sure the worst thing isn't the fact that they pay you too much? Just like so much
That
money.
probably is.
You just you gotta bury it, you burn it, you throw it out the window. It's like there's just so much.
Right.
There was a meme. Aaron, did you share that meme that was, what if we, and somebody shared a meme, what if we lived in a world where teachers got diamond rings for completing their season of teaching or something like that?
Right.
Kind of world would that be like? I think we got Hal popping in with a question here. He teaches tech to install professionals, and I get more satisfaction from those light bulb moments than the sales.
Yes, sir. That's awesome.
So there you go. It's not about the money, right? It's those connections. Those connections.
Yeah. Thanks, Hal. Yeah. Your teacher in the making, Hal.
Yeah, exactly. And he's Mr. Tech, obviously he said it in there, but we know him as the tech guy. So that's awesome. Did I tell you all that when I don't know if I told you guys this, speaking of that kind of those moments, Mike, so I had a conference that I did in Orlando, and I had a school show up with a couple of teachers, and I looked at, it's a long story, but basically they had a couple people coming. One of them couldn't make it. So last minute, the principal just said, hey, do you want to go in this person's place? And they said, yes, like within 24 hours of the conference. So they came down. I had no idea. I was totally cool with it. And they got checked in by our person that was checking in at the front. And I'm looking at, I went over, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Is everyone checked in? And they said, yeah. And I looked at a name and I went, wait a minute, this name looks really familiar. And I went over there. This was a girl I taught like 8-10 years ago. And she's now a teacher, and she showed up at my teacher conference, and we had no idea.
That's so cool.
And she's like, you're one of the reasons why I'm a teacher. And I was just like,
it's beautiful.
Oh my God. It was just amazing. So yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's awesome. All right, should we do one more? You guys game to do one more?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. What is one of your hidden talents?
That's a good one to end on.
Oh yeah.
Can I answer that for Evelyn?
Nice.
Please.
Evelyn, do you have your resume ready?
Yeah, right. You guys hiring, by the way? Evelyn, this is just out of pure jealousy. Evelyn eats more like gummy bears and gummy worms and candy than anybody I know.
I have a bag right
here. Look at that. See, I'm not lying.
Saltwater taffy.
I'm not.
Nice.
And somehow is like one of the like fittest and like slimmest people that I know. And it's really maddening because it's like if I like think about bagels, I gain a pound. And it's like, well, I ran today, and then I lifted weights, but like I ate, a couple extra chips or whatever. And it's like I can't get anything off. And everyone's over there just like pounding gummy bears.
Chomping on gummy bears. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
Evelyn, that is I absolutely love gummies, like completely love gummies. Do you have a certain one that is your favorite?
Oh,
Sour Patch
yes. So anything from the Sour Patch family. So like there's the watermelon.
Yes.
Didn't even know that.
There's the kids. There's the big kids. Anything from that family.
The big kids were a score because it had 2 flavors on one.
Yes. Oh, this is
I'm learning a lot.
I can talk a lot about gummies. Fred, what's one of your hidden talents? I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. I have to think about this a little bit more. I think. Oh boy, I can't think of anything like really hidden, like as a talent. I could do a lot of annoying things. I could just ask my wife of what those things would be. Let me get back to you on that. Let Pete,
Okay.
Pete, you go.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, the word is hidden. You guys all know me. I can make pretty much anything out of a balloon animal.
No
wow.
way.
How
That's
about
amazing.
that?
That's pretty cool.
How about
That's
that?
very cool.
That's pretty cool.
My son cannot answer anything embarrassing, so
Okay. All right.
Kick you
Mike, have you thought one for yourself?
Oh boy. Hidden talent? I don't know. I mean, I can handstand walk. I don't know.
Oh, that's good.
that's
Not
could
much about, like I can
Wait,
do
wait,
this.
wait, what did you say?
I can handstand walk. I mean, I'm
Nice.
that's impressive.
I think he
Yeah.
said I can Hanson walk. I'm like, what does
I
that
don't
mean?
know what that is.
Yeah, you know, like the Hansons.
The Hanson
the
brothers?
The Hanson brother, yeah, it's like an umbop thing.
Like
I don't
Yeah,
know.
certain parts of town they call it the umbop. There you go.
Yes, right,
Umbop.
right.
That's amazing. I'm trying to think of what mine is. I mean, it's been a while, but I used to be able to juggle a soccer ball with just my knee and foot for a good
Nice.
couple minutes.
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Wait, you mean like going like back and forth? Like
Yeah. Yep,
Wow.
back and forth, no hands. I used to every day after school would go home, and that's what I played high school and college. So, and I was thinking that the other day. It's funny. I was like, wonder if I could still do that. I'll report back next week. I'll let you all know if I'm in the hospital reporting from there. You'll know the answer.
So Tacey's sharing that she could twirl a baton, and
Nice.
that is a skill. Thank you,
We've done
Tacey.
kicking for years, and that's a new one for us.
I cannot. I would give
Yes.
myself a black eye.
Yeah.
Like real quick.
Tacey,
I wonder-
have you ever lit an end of them on fire?
Yes,
Any
that's what I was
fire
going to ask,
talent?
Pete.
See, there we go. We are related.
And
Fire
I
talent?
have to ask you, since it's in there, you can do impressions.
No,
You
we're
have
not going there right now.
Okay, we're not.
We have a very long drive home, and sometimes I'll do whatever it takes to.
Oh wow! Breaking news: Tacey said yes, she has lit the ends of his
Awesome.
All right.
Great.
That's
Well,
awesome.
We can't top that. She's
No,
the
All right,
I do know how to juggle. So yeah, I taught
we go.
myself I can juggle. It's been they have to be certain size like type of.
Two
I
tennis
can.
balls.
I
can
do
do
a
it, yeah.
TPR talent show coming up. The
Oh my
TPR
gosh.
talent showcase.
Yeah, we might have to have a showcase.
Yay.
Oh, she also lit her hair on fire. So we do not, for legal reasons, we do not recommend people at home attempting.
I don't know. It's sounding cooler and cooler.
I know, right?
right? Tacey's pretty cool. So,
She's awesome.
all right. Well, should we end on that one? Was that a good one?
That was a good one.
And
That was
I
a good
want to
one.
know, do I have more points than Mike?
Yes,
Yes.
Evelyn.
Yes.
I have counted.
That's all
And,
I care about.
and funny
no.
enough, I think the prize is gummies. So
Who would've
watch for the
thought?
iTech support mail,
Yeah.
and there may be some gummies on
So
your way.
that's because he beats me at everything else, like foot races, contests. He always
Which
wins.
these are all things that we do. This is all like,
Sounds
we,
like a great place to work.
yeah, we have foot races and play chess and yeah.
Speaking of a great place to work, don't you guys have something? I feel like you have something coming up. Do you have an event or a conference or something that you all are? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Evelyn?
Sure. We love conferences just like you, Erin. They're great places to learn. In November, we'll be down in Miami at the Florida Council of Independent Schools. That's one of our favorite conferences every year. A lot of our schools are a part of that organization. And then in 2024, our 5th annual Orlando Learning Summit. So we would love anyone who has never attended to come out and join us. And that's just a wonderful opportunity for learning. So we'd love to see you there.
When is that?
FETC? Are we going to that?
Oh, yes. We'll be at FETC
FETC
in Orlando.
January. Great.
Yeah. We
What-
love conferences.
When's the Orlando Learning Summit?
We're still making the dates official. It's usually right around the 14th or 15th of July. Like it hits on a Friday, Saturday.
Okay. Good. Thank you. And also, just as a swing back around, when you were talking about your website, I did post in the comments, and I'll put it up here, the website for your AI for schools.ai. I was just poking around on that. That is fantastic. Thanks for putting that together. That's a really great resource.
That's our buddy Brian. He's incredible.
That's
good
great.
stuff.
And so the website for your group is i-techsupport.com. You can also, I know I follow you all on LinkedIn. That's where I get to see a lot of the announcements as they come through, and the cute pictures when you're out at your schools, and the big smiles on your faces. And so we're just so happy that you agreed to come back and hang with us. It's always fun and it's always informative. And we just wish you all the best over there.
Oh,
Thank
thank you so much for having us. It's such a joy to be with all three of you. And thank you for the game. That was so much fun to get to know each other even through that. So
That's
thank
exactly,
you.
yeah.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Fredo. Oh, and Pete, I guess before we go, where can our friends find us if they're not here with us live today?
Website teacherpeprally.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you play your podcast. We'll have this out in a week as a podcast.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.
Good to see you guys.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.